Olszynski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olszynski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olszynski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olszynski, the founding partner of the Olszynski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello, and welcome to episode 31 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. My name is Jorge Gonzalez. I don't know why that says Charlotte FC latest, but that's not, I may identify as that later, but as of now, I'm Jorge Gonzalez. We have Mr. Bam Maurer-Media here with us today, our co-host. How are you today?
Doing pretty well, man. Welcome back to the Dropping Points studio, man.
Nice. Yeah, we changed things up a bit as we're figuring a couple of things out, but we wanted to still do another episode. And then we have Mr. Aaron here today. How are you today, Aaron?
Doing well.
Who do you have there with you, my guy?
This is Sir Purr for the Panthers fans. He's obsessed with me, so he'll be crawling on me for the next hour.
Nice. He wanted to be on the podcast, bro. That's what it is.
He's a big Tim Ream fan, so he wants to stand up for him during the pod.
Nice. Tim Ream. Dean Smith had some interesting things to say about Mr. Tim Ream today. And so we're going to go over that a little bit. We're obviously going to touch on Charlotte FC's loss against Nashville. By the way, the admin on Nashville SC has been cooking us, right? We even got some of that stray. So, you know what? Fair play to them. You know, I kind of like that because it just kind of adds to the rivalry because you know what? Next time we play Nashville, we're going to want to win a little bit more just to be able to troll. Right. So let's start off with that, Brian. Give me your thoughts so far. Actually, you know what? Let's do this before we actually get going on your thoughts. Let's take a look at that starting 11 for Charlotte FC this weekend. We saw a couple of changes, right? Obviously, we saw Marshall Ruddy at left back, and then we saw Tim Ream slide in as center back with Mr. Adilson Malanda. Obviously, Scardina at right back. We know that long-term injury to Nathan Byrne. Pep Biel was back in the lineup, which was a positive, right? We saw that Brant Bronico and Ashley again in that midfield. And then the trio up top with Patrick Ajiman, Wilfred Zaha, and Liel Abada. And I'll start off with you, Brian. What did you make of this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the one thing that stood out to me was Shaquille Marshall-Ruddy just getting his first debut start. I think that was an interesting change that I don't think I expected, just because, I mean, he just got signed a couple of weeks ago. So for him to pop right into the starting 11 means he's already garnered a decent amount of trust from Dean, probably a guy that maybe Dean had been involved in terms of scouting and potentially recruiting. If he was really like popping him in that quick. Obviously, there's also just limited depth at left back right now with Doumbia out and no other really natural left back on the roster. I also I felt like, and this is Zaha's most touches he's had in the game so far this year. So I think Marshall Ruddy played a role in Zaha getting on the ball a little bit more. Now he didn't do quite as much as I would have liked to see him do with the ball, but the fact that your talisman player is getting like pretty much max touches is what you want. I mean, now it's just a matter of whether or not he does with the ball what they need him to do. But I mean, so I think for me, that was the one thing that stood out off the top was Marshall Ruddy being out there and helping Zaha get a little bit more involved.
Nice. Yeah. And then Aaron, we talked a little bit about the importance of Pep Biel. I mean, early on, right, he played a really good ball to Pat, who played a extremely great pass to Wilfred Zaha, right, who unfortunately, I feel like he could have done better in that opportunity, right? But I mean, that stemmed from a really good ball that Pep Biel got. And so you saw the importance of, I guess our best player so far this season.
Yeah, I've been preaching it since the season started, even before the season started, that Pep was going to be our most important player, and it showed when he was gone. We struggled a whole lot more than we had before previously of the season, but really like that impact hopefully solidifies him getting paid. That's the number one important thing because we've seen how bad the team is without him, just being blunt about it. And if it wasn't for him, honestly, I don't know where our attack would be this year because, like you said, Pat played a good ball to Zaha, and Pat's passing a whole lot more, and he's doing it really well. And even Zaha is not even finishing those chances. Now, I do believe Zaha is still doing really well. He's one of the best players on the team right now. But Pep has literally made so many goals this year, or just like created something from nothing. And I mean, before his injury, he was in the MVP talks. But I do want to note that I think one thing we're seeing is how much of impact Burn has for the attack. He does a lot for the team attacking wise, and Scardine is doing something similar. I mean, he's doing really well. I don't feel like he's filling the shoes as good as he could be. Obviously, it's going to come with time. He had a great cross and assist in our league match midweek. But I think that's one thing a lot of people aren't really picking up on. This Guardian is doing well, but Burn is just a different guy. Like he was second runner for MVP for me this season so far. Even ending the year last year, he was my MVP. So
Nice. Awesome. I want to stay on that subject of the back line, right? Because we saw, like, as you guys mentioned, Tim Ream slid in at center back, right? And a lot of people, there's a big pro privet, group out there, right? And so fair play, right? Him and Melanda have been special for us, but Dean touched on it at this press conference today about that partnership and just the center backs in general, and this is what he had to say.
My thoughts are, for most of the time that Privet and Melanda have played together, they've had a left-footed left back with them. If we haven't got a left-footed left back, then we lack balance totally. So, as I said before, Tim's been helping us out by playing at left back, and he's done it well. And we've built with the three, and we've been successful by doing that. But there's times when I'll want a left-footed centre back, and Saturday was one of them. And I thought, and I look back at the game and I've reviewed the game as well, I thought we were the better team on the day, created the better chances, had more control on the ball as well. But we gave 2 poor goals away, which, Tim's involved in one of them, not involved in the other. But, I think it's, if people are looking to try and make Tim a scapegoat at the moment, I think they're way off target.
If people try to make Tim Ream the scapegoat right now, they are way off target. Brian, what do you make of what Dean had to say at this presser today?
Yeah, I would say that it's a bit much to say he's a scapegoat. I think that, but it's easy for that to happen. I mean, he's the veteran guy. There's Andrew Privet, who a lot of people are excited about. It's the same kind of up top with like Ajiman, Toklamati, a lot of these guys who are in competitive battles. Whenever they don't perform well, there's a plan B that people are going to hypothetically want to see whether or not they would have done better in that situation, right? So overall, I've been saying this since week 1, the defenses look softer than last year. And so that's not solely on Tim Ream. Tim Ream hasn't started every game. He hasn't started every game at center back. I feel like they've given up a plethora of good looks to opposition so far this year. And now they're just starting to kind of like, the results aren't falling their way now, right? So I feel like that's why the focus maybe is starting to ramp up a little bit. Before, we were like kind of the only ones talking about the chances inside the box that were coming, but they were getting wins. So it's like, okay, it kind of just, pushes under the rug. But their XG against is way higher than it was last year at this point in the season. And so the volume, they've been absorbing a lot more volume. Right. Also, Kalina made a mistake a couple of weeks ago. So I would say it's just a team situation overall in multiple facets. I would also say one other thing that stood out in this game was after the first 15 minutes, and this has happened like the last 3 games straight, they come out really strong They create a couple really dangerous looks. They don't get the goal, and they kind of take their foot off the gas instead of shifting into gear 2. That's when you need to ramp it up and get into gear 2. It happened in New England. They had like 2 or 3 good chances. Ajiman cooked a couple of defenders. Zaha did too. And then they didn't get the goal. And it seemed like they almost played as if they got a goal without getting one. And I feel like they did that like the last 3 straight games.
Nice. Anything you want to add to that, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned before that this team is a very emotional team in regards to, win streaks, or Brian, like you said, if we almost get a goal and we don't, it's almost like everybody sighs and like puts their head down, except for a few guys here and there. And I wanted to touch on like, and I'm trying to think of it now. There was a stat about Tim Ream, and like Dean said, he's been the scapegoat. Like, let's be real, a lot of fans like immediately yell about, we shouldn't have a 40-year-old playing left back, center back, whatever. We have a positive record with him at left back. That's besides the point. But I mean, there was a goal against Columbus. We got washed in that game. It doesn't matter. But there was a goal where Columbus had like 20 passes and the possession was over a minute, and Tim was the last guy and he didn't make the block, or, every which way, and the entire blame went to Tim. And I think that's unfortunately like just how the Charlotte fans react as well. I think they're also like very, last man gets the blame. Whenever we go on these like just defensive breaks, or we just look like we don't know what we're doing, it's a team thing. I mean, I think some of the best defenders on the team right now are Zaha and honestly Vargas. Like, even when Vargas came on as a right back a few weeks ago, like, that was some of the best defending we've seen. And they're more passionate about it. I mean, Zaha is playing out of his mind whenever he has to defend, and unfortunately it's a lot. So I think it's more of a team structure that needs to be changed. Even if, I've said it before, if we move Privet to defensive mid and played Westwood at defensive mid, played them beside each other, we could see a difference. But it's a full team thing for me. It's not just one person.
Yeah, and you also got to, and you guys touched on it a little bit, like, this has just been like poor away form in general too. Yeah. I mean, we've had one good away result, and then after that, it just feels like the team hasn't truly been clicking away. And one of the things I wanted to touch on, and I'll get your guys' thoughts on as well, there's been moments where I know, like, to me, Zaha and Abada haven't been bad, but I think they need to be better still, because there's opportunities, there's chances where these guys have to make the difference. That's why they're DPs, right? If we just go back to this Nashville game, right? Zaha, you got to put that away. That opportunity was right there, served on a plate for you. I know Abada scored a goal, right? But he also had 2 other opportunities to score, and he didn't even put the ball on target.
He had a hat trick.
Right?
Let's be real.
And that was this game against Nashville, right? If we go back to, San Diego, there was that miss he had, that Hamadi blocked, right? So to me, I still need like RDP players to be that difference makers, right? And so, maybe we wouldn't have won against Nashville, but 2 goals from Abada could have pulled out a point. And that's what we need from our DPs, right? And so anything you guys want to add on that, on the DPs for Charlotte FC?
I just want to reiterate, like, yeah, especially on the road, like at home, a lot of different players can show up and pull the team through to a result because the momentum is there, the crowd's behind them, their mentality is going to be a little stronger, they're going to be more logistically well rested. All those kind of factors play in at home, but on the road, your DPs need to kind of pull you through. And get those, whether it's a point or a win. And I think in this situation, I mean, you're looking for at least a point there, especially after you give up the 2 goals, which one of them, again, was Hani Mukhtar, who countered Abada and got a goal back, and so when you give a DP like Nashville's Hani Mukhtar multiple shots in the box, he's likely to put one away, whether it's like the soft one that Dean called giving him a soft one by getting the throw into the box. But like, if you just give a player of that caliber multiple opportunities from inside and around the box, it doesn't matter what the XG is on the shot. He's just got a way better chance of it going in. And that goal, I mean, you could call it soft defending, but I mean, that was pretty sick goal. I mean, Alex Muriel, like with a back heel, that little bit of foot Mozart there from Muriel, and then Hani Mukhtar with the finish. So it's like, I mean, that's where
finish was
you need to match DP to DP in those situations, right? If they're putting magic up, you got to put it up. That's just how it goes.
I think the word magic is like is how I feel. Like you look at you look at other teams' DPs. I mean, you look at Pep Biel. Like he could be classified as a DP, where he could be closing in on that. And once he gets the ball, we expect magic, and we normally see it. He can beat multiple guys, and he can make a flare pass. And with Abada, I don't think anybody expects that. Nobody. I don't think we've gotten an Abada goal where everybody kind of like dropped their jaw. I mean, the last time Charlotte scored a goal that I was like really shocked about might have been Jordi Reyna 3 years ago whenever he scored two in Miami and we lost. Like when have we seen a goal that was like a nice flare goal that wasn't like, I know that's not the style of football we play, but eventually we need a DP that can like shoot from anywhere and score. And I think a lot of people will expect that out of Zaha. That's why a lot of people are disappointed with him. It's like, I think that's where that disappointment is coming from. People expected Zaha to come into the league and just like shoot like Messi from anywhere. And that's just, the MLS is a bit harder than that. And maybe BL starts shooting more, or maybe Abada starts shooting more confidently. But that's a whole different story. Like we said, he can't even put him on target when he's 1-on-1. So
nice. Okay. Good points all around. I want to touch a little bit more on this as well. Obviously, how concerned should fans be about this poor away form that Charlotte FC has right now? If you're looking, it's a tough May. 9 matches, right? 7 of them away, right? That's why I think we were talking about this, Brian, a little bit as well. But that match against New England at home where we lost, to me, that was more crucial than going to Columbus and going to Nashville, because these are games that when you're looking at things, you could lose, right? Columbus is showing that they're a top team, right? Obviously contenders for, MLS Cup this season, right? Nashville has been on the up, right? And you see them, they just leapfrogged us on the table, right? But the game against New England, that was there for us to win, right? And to continue to push in those top 4 spots, because even when we were top of the East, to me, I was like, you know what? This isn't truly where the team is at just yet, but the team can challenge for a top 4 spot. And that's where I'm like, these away games, right? We have 7 this month. We've lost 3 games on the bounce. How concerned are you about this away form?
I'm not like putting up huge red flags or alarm bells yet. If you look at their 6 road games so far, 5 of them made the playoffs last year. Only Nashville hadn't made the playoffs in 2024, and they clearly have progressed significantly since their 2024 season ended. Yes, would you have liked to get into some more results early on and get some points? For sure. But I like you said, I think the New England loss makes these road losses hurt more, because now it's like, when are the points going to come? If you're on 22 points through 12 games, you're still in 4th place right now. You're still almost at a 2-point per game rhythm, right? So that's why I was pretty frustrated after the New England home loss, because it's like that hurts. That's a big one, especially when you give it away like the way they did. And the team's talking about how like strongly they played, and they felt like it was taken away from them and all those kind of things. So it's like, those are the points that for me were the big drop points. These road games, especially against the opponents they had, those are, I mean, you hate to like say it as if it's like points that you can lose or drop, but it's like those at this point in the season, there's still a lot of variability, teams figuring out who they are, all those aspects of things. And with those many quality opponents that they've already played on the road, there's a lot more favorable road matchups coming up. You've got Chicago away, SKC. Like, there's more opportunity to get a little bit easier road points later on in the season, and that's because they've already played a pretty hard road schedule now. Now, if they keep dropping points against like a SKC on the road against Chicago, and Chicago are on the up too, right? They're definitely performing a little bit better. But like, I mean, some of these teams that they should match up a little bit stronger against, if they go into their house and they can't get any points anywhere, that's where, for me, that's when the red flags are. Like, I don't necessarily, I'm not, oh, they lost in Columbus. Like, that's red flag for the season. Like, that's okay. Like, there's way easier points. And as long as they keep getting those, that's what gave me optimism at the beginning part of this season. They got a lot of points that were favorable right out of the gate and took care of business early to kind of give them this buffer. They haven't really done that before in their history. So the fact that they gave themselves this buffer,
That's a good point.
right? Like, I mean, they're still well over 1.5 points per game, still well on pace to eclipse what they had done last year at 51 points based on their pace now. And their schedule will get more favorable because of all these road games now. Right, they finished with like 9 home games out of like their last 12 or 14 games. So that's where you can get a lot more of these points as long as you can just maintain for a bit.
Nice, yeah. And Aaron, I want your thoughts on that too. But before, I'm not sure why we can't see the Twitter comments. I know you guys post on there. If you want to say something or you want to add your 2 cents, YouTube is working. So I was just checking on that as well. So if you have anything that you want to add, we love to like hear comments from the fans. We see a lot of people are on, but for some reason we're not getting the comments, and so I'm not sure how to fix that, So, but if you go on YouTube, right, you can add your own comments, right, and we'll be able to see that and interact with you as well. So, Aaron, away form, how scared are you? Brian said we're good. The team's gonna win the next 7 on the bounce. What do you think?
I don't know about the next 7. I feel strongly about this. Like, honestly, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, that we got the beginning kind of, we got a head start to the point. But I mean, even as Goat saying in the chat, the team's emotional, and I think that we need to learn early on how to win on the road, because if we don't finish in a super high spot, then we have to play 2 away games, or we have to play an away game in the playoffs. I'm not confident. I'm confident in every single game that we play at home. I mean, even when we went to Montreal and what they started without a win, we didn't look like the dominant team. We didn't look like we could have beat them 4 or 5-0. I mean, we won 1-0 off a goal in the first 20 minutes. Realistically, you're going into that match hoping to score 3 on them and boost your goal differential and walk away with, we just demolished a team that has not won this year. And the more grace we give the team as of like, oh, they're learning how to play on the road, this, that, I don't think this is a conversation you should have, because we have a lot of talent on the roster, and I feel like fans, and I wouldn't say us as fans, because we obviously just enjoy Charlotte FC, we've always had some sort of excuse of like, oh, we need this or we need that, or they just need time. And it's like, a lot of these guys are the same guys from last year, and we had the same exact problem last year. We couldn't win on the road and we were strong at home. Like, we need to figure this out, or we're just gonna fumble. Like, we could have easily beat Orlando. We had the edge at home. Even the Orlando players were saying before and after the match that they did not want to play at Bank of America.
You sound like Arteta right now, bro.
We need to figure. I know we need to be able to show up. Talking about to show up away and play. It's simply as that, and it looks like the players. Yeah. I don't want to say it's not passion, but the fans at home do a lot for Charlotte. And
it's definitely a different, like, you just feel more elevated at home, right?
Yeah.
I think Vaughn mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on one of our pods too. Like, the good thing is you don't really need to win that many away games.
No, you don't.
So that's a positive, where we just have to pull a couple, right? And like Brian said, like, there's some favorable matches coming up for Charlotte FC to kind of show us, right, that let's pull a couple of points away. And then another thing that, I think Dax McCarty said as well that I thought was a really good point. The East is a very, very competitive conference, especially this year. I mean, if you look at that top 5, you got Cincy, you've got Columbus, you got Philly, you got Miami, Nashville's on the up. were on the up. You know, New York Red Bulls are 7th, and they went to the MLS Cup final, and they just put 7 past Galaxy, the current champs, right? You know, Atlanta's doing terribly, which I'm kind of surprised off with just the amount of money they spent, right? So
Yeah.
I think you also have to factor in that as well. It's just a very, very competitive Eastern Conference, right? And so when we can go maybe to DC or Chicago, we could pull 3 points away from both of those teams, right? It's there for the taking, and that's really what's going to solidify us in that 4th spot. And going back to what Aaron said, because that's honestly, I love that the team has that target. I think Brant Bronico mentioned it in a podcast I listened to, where that's been the objective since the get-go, and they've never truly had objectives. It was more, hey, let's make playoffs, right? Now they have a team, right, that can actually compete for that. And ironically, the 2 players that I think could do the best for us in Liel Labada and Wilfred Zaha, we still haven't seen the best from them. So that's a positive, right?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to put it is like, sure, I'm not worried about making the playoffs. I'm just worried about how we're going to perform away in the playoffs, because we can't just say like, oh, like we can beat the bad teams away during the season. Like, I'm not worried about that. I know we can. I'm just worried about how we play away once we're in the playoffs. Whenever one, there's way more tension on the line, and we're still pretty fresh to making it to the postseason. A lot of these guys are new to it, and last year was just emotionally draining. The way we got, the way we exited. Are they going to carry that into this year on top of sucking away? Like, there's so many. It's a mental game. I feel like it is with the Charlotte team. I don't think it's talent.
Let's talk a little bit about Liel Labada, right? And so I kind of touched on it a little bit with his goals, but he was able to speak today at a press conference, right? And this is what he had to say.
3 goals in your last 3 games. What's been the secret to your recent run of success?
Yeah, I think it was a tough games, like especially in away games. But I think we get so easy goals. We got so easy goals. So we will learn from this, and then we have an important game on Wednesday, and this is the most important now.
It always says people tell you it takes a long time to adjust to this league.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like you've adjusted personally?
I feel good, I'm really happy to be here. I get so much support from the staff, from the players, for everyone here. I really enjoy here, and yeah, that's it.
In terms of trying to kind of unlock your best self, where do you feel like your game translates best to this game model?
I think attacking transition maybe, and we have a lot in this team attacking transition. And I try always to improve myself every time in the training with the staff. And hopefully I can improve myself more and help to the team more. And hopefully the next result will be good.
Nice. Liel Labada, when we're looking at players, and we've discussed this in the past, right? Second season is when you can truly judge a player in MLS, right? So obviously last season, Liel Labada didn't have a preseason, came in kind of late, right? In that first window. And, this season was where I was, okay, what is my expectations for Liel Labada, right? Because everybody was talking about Wilfred Zaha this, Wilfred Zaha that. But Liel Labada is also a DP, right? And so as I mentioned, we're starting to see a little bit from Liel Labada, scoring consistently, right? And so, I think it's important, right, that he's having opportunities, putting some away, but there's also big chances that he's missing. So I'll start off with you, Brian. Talk to me a little bit about Liel Labada and what you've been seeing from him recently.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting goals over the last few games. He's got 3 in his last 4 games. That's what you need to see more consistently. I mean, just in general. I mean, Charlotte FC DPs up until Biel, and I mean, obviously, technically Biel's not a DP right now, but I mean, likely he will be. Only consistent producer that Charlotte have ever had in their history in terms of just being able to put a long streak of games together where it's like, okay, he's putting a goal contribution in 10 of 12, things like that. That's what Biel has done. Leo Labata, obviously, well short of that so far. 3 of 4 is good. But I mean, he was an $8 million record transfer.
Yeah.
He's on like a $2.5 million contract. These are like Cucho Hernandez comparable numbers. Not saying that he's supposed to be Cucho. His playing style doesn't fit. But like there's a reason why fans will target him or target a Zaha. There's like expectations that come with
100%.
that level of money. And when you look at the other players that are performing at that level, look at Anders Dryers in San Diego, right? He's already had double-digit goal contributions, and he's in his first like 12 games with the club, right? So there's players that are contributing regularly that are coming in at that level of transfer fee, fitting into a system and figuring out how to make it happen. And it doesn't matter who else is starting. I think that's one thing that I have a qualm with, regardless of Tokomati, Ajiman, however you feel about it. The fact that the argument is maybe one of these guys should help get the DPs to be where they need to be. It's like, no, the DPs are supposed to be where they need to be, and then get the other players to what are we even talking about here? What are we even talking about? Lucho Acosta in Cincinnati, didn't matter who the striker was. Brandon Vasquez, then Bopenza, rest in peace, right? Then who he's got now with Denke, right? Big DP signing, but also like Sergio Santos and all the other. He's just produced. He just produced. And I think Cucho Hernandez, you can put in the same boat. And so these top DPs that get results, that end up top 4, that end up winning trophies. Bouanga is another great example in the LAFC. The other players on the team at times have struggled, but Bouanga gets results. And when he doesn't, the team fumbles it, right? And I think that's really why I think there's a little extra pressure on these guys. Abada now in year 2, where it's just like that has to be the expectation. And I think maybe the reason why it's easier to like fade and say, well, maybe we can upgrade at Ajimana Toklamati's position at striker is like, okay, well, there's the upgrade. We already signed the DPs. We have to roll with these guys. The bed is made there. So we have to find another bed to make. When it's like those guys need to just get to the point, get to the level that they need to be at so that this team can, produce the way that their targets and their goals have been set to do. Now, technically, like they can still get there. Biel has produced at the level that is needed over the course of the season if he can maintain that, to where Abada doesn't have to maybe do that every single game. But some of these guys do, and I think the expectation for Abada is that he can do that because, I mean, that's the signing. That's the transfer fee. Whether he was brought in on a deal because of the whole situation coming from Celtic or not, like an $8 million transfer is an $8 million transfer.
It's a lot, yeah.
And so, like, it's just that's part of the expectation that comes with it.
100%. I agree wholeheartedly. Aaron?
It's a lot for a young kid, and I do want to make a point on kind of what Abada said, that he loves to play in transition, and that's where he feels the best. And that makes me a little bit uncomfortable because he is very good in transition, and he can get those one-on-ones, but he's not converting them. Which you can keep saying it'll take time, but I think that if he could do a little bit more outside of his transition, or he can defend well, then transition well, but he doesn't have the upside that Zaha has of creating chances, drawing defenders. Leo Abada rarely gets 2v1. He's always man marked, or they just know he's there. He's never really attracting defenders like Pat and Zaha like they do consistently. Really, I mean, you see it with Vargas too. When Vargas is on, they kind of let him do his thing because they're not a whole lot worried. They're not worried about him outside of the box. They're not worried about him creating some magic. They kind of just get their goals. That's like Abada. Like all of his goals are pretty much transition goals. You don't really see him beat a guy. The best time we saw him beat a guy, then he kicked the ball straight into Diop's head. Like, it's, if he could do more, off the ball or even on the ball to create for the team, we really could see Pat level up. We could see Zaha get more on the stat sheet that everybody cares about, because Zaha is doing literally everything but scoring and assisting, which we need him to do that too. But there's a reason that Zaha is so highly rated throughout these matches, and even rated higher than Abada, and Abada has all the goals. And the average person is overlooking that by a mile. But it's, if we could get some more of that transition into Zaha, and then more of that, off ball protection with Abada, to where he's kind of getting some interest, it would really open up the team a whole lot more. But we like you said, Brian, we've made our bed. We have Zaha. He's going to get 2v1. He's going to get 3v1. He's going to get fouled 16 times a game. Pat and Abada should do more because of that. Like, that directly benefits them.
Yeah, I do. However, think we still need to see a better version of Zaha.
We do.
Right? And
no,
so
we do. 100%.
yeah,
But I think we're overlooking what he is doing. You know, I think there's two sides to it.
For sure. I think is he getting like, I guess, negative treatment from the fan base? He is, right? Kind of similar situation with Tim Ream, right? Where it just feels like there's a whole lot more being added to these guys. But like Brian said, at the same time, like these are kind of the expectations. I think Dean mentioned it in his presser today too. Like, unfortunately, because he's a DP, that's how people are going to view it. And I'm like, I don't think that's unfortunate. That's on purpose. That's why you're the DPs, right? I really like that point that you made, Brian, about, like these guys should be, making a Patrick Ajimon better. They should be like, I think another thing that we just never seen in Charlotte, and we've gotten it a little bit with Pep Biel, is a consistent DP, consistently, assisting and scoring goals. We've never had that. Like, we've never had a Lucho Acosta. We've never had a Vander. We've never had a Gucho, right, that can really put the team on the back and, take us to that next level. Swiderski did it a couple times the first season, right? But there hasn't really been a DP player that has actually done that for us, that talisman player. Like, we've talked about it multiple times. We've never had it, right? We've relied more on the collective, right? Which overall, relying on the collective will get us maybe 5th or 4th. But what's truly going to make the difference at the end of the day, where we'll see how deep we can go in a playoff run, is the DPs. And that's where, like, okay, like these guys need to be informed, right? Or getting informed now. So when we really hit the heights, people know, okay, I got to be afraid of Zaha. I got to be afraid of Abada.
And this is where I would just push back on Dean a little bit in terms of it being unfortunate that he's a DP and so he's getting some pushback. Dean called him a goal grabber before he was even signed. Like, before he even came to Charlotte, he's like, he's a goal grabber who will bring that bit of magic. That was Dean's advertisement of the player. What is not even talking about a DP at that point. That was the coach's advertisement.
Yeah.
So there's like that advertisement. Plus, then for me, it was like, okay, Abada, what's your reaction? You're a club record signing, and the coach just called this other guy the goal grabber we need.
It's a good point. Yeah. I also think, though, like when you look at what Dean says, right, a lot of it is to protect his players.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So take what he says with a little bit of a grain of salt to say, okay, like, let me try to get the pressure off of some of these guys.
Yeah. I think to add, like, just really briefly, that it involves the DPs and Dean, is that I almost feel as if the team is playing exactly how Dean wants all the time. I think we see a lot out of Abada, out of BL, that we can say ooh and ah to, because he kind of goes off script a lot. He does his thing because he's very confident in himself and like really will go off a script. And I think that's something our front three kind of lacks. I think they're very scripted in their attacks. I don't think we have many of those kind of off script moments or like, I'm going to do this myself moments. And I think that's one of the things that Zaha's getting frustrated with, even with himself. I mean, he's posted on social media about, I do this, I do that. Like, I'm criticized each way. And I don't think that was towards coaching. I think that's more just like the chip on his shoulder and then fans wanting him to be that guy. But I do think that if we saw a little bit more of kind of some off script moments from, Abada, Vargas, whenever he comes in, I think, Pekovic's goal midweek was very off script, and it was nice because those are the kind of things we want from everybody, but we're really only seeing them from Pep, and we lost it when Pep was gone. It was very obvious to see, and everybody then in those games, this 2 games he was out, where it was very much like, we're going to play football like this. These are the plays. If it doesn't work, man, that sucks, and we're going to, put our head down and walk away from it.
Nice. Anything else you guys want to add on before I move to the next topic? We're good? Nice. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about Orlando, right? Orlando City, we play them tomorrow, right? Another match. So it's going to be Wednesday, Saturday for this team, right? And so a lot of games coming quick and fast. And so that's why like rotation is important, right? Let's talk a little bit about Orlando. This is a team that like I want to say out of their last 6 games, they've drew 0-0 like 4 of them, right? And so one Dean was asked today to, is the team a little bit maybe extra motivated or they feel like they've got a little chip on their shoulder because they were eliminated by Orlando? And he said not really, right? And so that was one thing I was thinking about, but Dean kind of answered that, right? But when we're looking at this match, Aaron, right, 3 losses back to back, how important is it to at least try to grab a point tomorrow?
I don't know if that was the PR getting to Dean, but I really wish his response was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go, kick them into the dirt because we don't deserve to be eliminated." I think sometimes we see a PR Dean, and then sometimes we see a Dean that's going to get fired the next or fined the next day. And I think that was hopefully the PR coming out in him because I want this team to be externally motivated. I know I keep bringing it up that if we're down in the dumps, we suck. If we're on cloud 9, we're very good. But I mean, I see winning against Orlando just again being very key because they are struggling, and it's a team that we can easily turn it around on. It is a good team on paper, so I think winning against them won't be easy, but I think it'll be a good confidence boost, which obviously we need right now. Losing 3 in a row just literally sucks. I mean, that midweek game, it was nice to win, but it was against NCFC. Like, they're not an MLS team, so that was kind of just like brushed off. Like, nobody cared about that. And like I said, if we can hang, I want to see 3 points against Orlando. Obviously, we all want to see it, but if we don't even get a draw, I mean, that's one of the worst things about Charlotte right now. And we saw under Latandio too. If we didn't win, we lost. We are not getting draws. We're not getting 1 point. We're not doing anything. We are straight up losing the game. And those 1 points towards the end of the year are also very important for position. So if we don't win, it sucks. But I could see us just straight out not even getting a point if we're not winning.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough place to get a point right now. I mean Orlando are unbeaten in 10 straight. So getting a win is going to be a tough situation. While they're maybe not in the best form, I mean they're not losing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not losing.
4 wins, 6 draws. A lot of those are 0-0s. Another point there is that they're 2 defensive midfielders. One, Orlando, Vildar Cartagena, who we're familiar with from last year, didn't even make it to the season. He had a season-ending injury to start the year. They signed Eduard Atuesta, and he's now gone down, so he hasn't been in recently. Cesar Araujo has come back, and he's playing. So at one point, they were literally playing like 2 super draft picks at D-mid. So, like rookie, Garbett, I'm pretty sure is like a rookie. Like he just got drafted this year. So Cesar Araujo is back, and he's so pivotal to what they do in the midfield. Makes it a very difficult to midfield to deal with. I think the other point to mention is Muriel. Seems like he's actually down to play this year, which makes a huge difference. Last year, couldn't even start. He got beat out by a U22 and a super draft pick for. I mean, I know we give Karol Swiderski and Enzo Capetti a bunch of grief for Patrick Ajiman competing for his spot, but I mean, Muriel was from Atalanta, a big time Serie A club. And to lose his spot to a super draft pick, I think it was a huge blow there. But him actually being down to play, their new signing. My one big question mark going into this season for Orlando was how fast can you replace a Facundo Torres? And turns out pretty quick. Pasalek seems like a real player for them as well. So I mean, on paper they're definitely still really solid. Their coach Oscar Pereira, I have a lot of faith in. I know a lot of people. Even going into the season, I think Matt Doyle at one point said he was on the hot seat, which rocked me. I was like, how is this possible? Everything he's done over the last 4 years to be on the hot seat that quick. But anyway, I think this is also the time of year to play in Orlando.
Yeah.
All that being said, they usually start a little slower. Now, they haven't started as slow as they did in the past because they're not dealing with Champions Cup right now. So they have been able to fight their way and get some results. But I'd rather play Orlando in May than Orlando in September, because by the time, I mean, it's just like clockwork with this team. They are a second half
really
team,
is.
and they just put up 30, 35 points on the second half. And like, if they could keep that clip going, they would be putting up 70 points and winning supporter shields every year. But they're just a second half team. I don't know what it is about Oscar Pereira getting the team in the right mindset, but that second half mode, they're in killer mode, and they just haven't been a team that does that in the first half of the year. So if there's a time to get a point in Orlando, it's now. They just, fell flat. They lost. They dropped points, and I'm sure they're frustrated right now. They were up 3-2. Ojeda had a hat trick, and then they gave up a late penalty to Hill to make it a 3-3 draw. So that's got to be a really devastating draw right there, being up multiple times in that game and letting those points fall away, especially when you give up a PK late like that. So I would say that mentally they're probably a little bit shaken, just in terms of the draws do stack up over time that maybe you can't get the wins you expect or want. I think their road draw against Chicago was another rough one, right? That's the situation. Like, if Charlotte's in that position, that's one of the road games. Like, we got to get points there. You come away with a 0-0 draw in Chicago. Charlotte fans would be really pissed about that for Charlotte. Orlando fans likely in a similar boat there. So mentally, I think there's an opportunity. It's just whether or not, like Aaron said, can Charlotte step up in that situation and kind of take it to them a little bit.
Nice.
Personally, I'd be happy with a draw.
Yeah, 100%. You take a draw.
No, even in general, people would be mad at a Charlotte or at a Chicago loss. Like, at this point, if we get a point in a game, I'm happy. Like I said, we don't know how to draw games.
Yeah.
And that really sucks, because
talking about away or just in general?
In general, really. Like, even at home, like, it's very hard for us to either equalize and hold that, or if we go down, it's hard to equalize and and draw a game. I mean, historically, we drop points last year or the year before when we were talking about just dropped points. Like, so many of them came from positions where we were about to equalize, or we were equalized in the last 10 minutes of the game and we lost it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, some tactical changes, right, in terms of what we could see tomorrow. So Caleb had a hot take at the beginning of the year that I don't think is as much of a hot take anymore, where he mentioned, Ashley Westwood dropping a bit of form, and we've seen that this year. Actually, Dean touched on it a little bit as well, right? We just haven't seen the same Ashley Westwood that we saw last year, right? And given this span of, so many games, right? What kind of changes would you make in Charlotte FC going into that game tomorrow, specifically in the midfield, right? And so, Aaron, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I want to. It's a midweek game, and our team is tired. I think Westwood is probably beat. I mean, he is old and does a lot of running. Not to take anything away from him, but I'd love to see Pekovic start. I mean, that guy, he has flair, and he is young and he wants to get the start. I mean, he can produce goals. I mean, you look at our midfield right now, other than BL, I consider him part of our attack. You look at Bronico and Westwood, I'm not looking at one of them to score a goal. We've seen a couple of Westy bangers. Those are every once in a while you see something crazy from him. But if, I want to put someone in that can help the attack and also help the defense and just take a little bit of weight off of everybody, it would be Pekovic. I think it's a good time to see him start. Even last game, Bronico struggled too. A lot of people mentioned like he just looked out of it. There's just these random times where, a lot of us know that Bronico plays a lot because he is a workhorse. And there's a lot of times where he looked a little bit tired. I mean, I forget when it was in the game. It was about halfway or maybe a third of the way through, but he got a pass to the sideline. It looks like he just gave up, and it normally is a ball that he would eventually get to, or he would power to getting to keep it into some sort of degree. I want to see Privet in the midfield for us eventually.
You keep pushing that.
I'm pushing it because I want to see it. I just want to see it.
I don't know if we'll ever see that.
I want to see it one time. Reem is a phenomenal player. I love him. internationally, even for Charlotte, whatever. I want to see him and Privet play at the same time, and so do I Malanda. If we can get Privet at defensive mid to kind of be that dropping man between them, maybe transition to a 5 in the back, 3 in the back in the game, I would love to see Privet play in the midfield just once. Just see how it works. See if it takes weight off of the defensive shoulders, what it does for the team, because he can fall back and be the 5th man. He can fall back and be the 3rd center back when our wing backs fly up. Just once, just give it to me. That's all.
Awesome. I mean, Aaron's talking. He wants to play Latanzio ball of a hybrid, midfielder center.
Privet was a defensive mid. Let's be fair. Latanzio was the one that converted Privet to a center back, but Privet was a center mid. So let's just be fair there.
So Dean can convert him back to midfield.
Ryan,
he can be a line playmaker. That's just what we need.
Changes that you'd like to see?
I don't think I'd like to see too many changes in this match in Orlando. While Westwood, maybe his form, maybe the last couple of games wasn't where it needed to be. I had him as one of our players of the month through April. The last couple of games in April, he was very dangerous, especially in the attacking third. He had 21 passes into the final third, 11 shot creating actions across the last 2 games in San Diego and against New England in those home games. A bunch of key passes and an assist. While Caleb's hot take could pan out, maybe he doesn't have the legs to do what he needs to do full season. I don't think Charlotte have a replacement for him. I think if his hot take pans out, this team for me could be in real trouble. Like the amount of so what Westwood is like the leader of the team, right? He's also the most willing runner outside of maybe Bronico. He's also one of the most technically gifted, and he's also one of the best visionaries on the team. Like top 3 in all of those. How do you replace that in one player with anybody on this team right now? Like you can't replace. You have to like transformer that thing together, right, to get that back. So it's just for me now. Does that mean he shouldn't get rest if Dean Smith feels like he needs rest? 100%. I would rather him play on the road in Orlando than at home versus Chicago. I would rather.
That's where I would disagree because
really?
I think we need. I would rather feel the best 11 at home, right, than away in Orlando. Because in Orlando, it's kind of acceptable to lose, right? Like, I'm not saying that like we go in there with that mentality, but given the Wednesday, Saturday, if there's a game where you're going to rotate, I think a game like this is where you do that and you save your best starters for the home game.
Well, here's the thing. I'm also circling U.S. Open Cup round of 16 DC on the road as honestly even more pivotal than either of these matchups. For me,
that's true.
For me, that's why. So I'm thinking Westwood road Orlando, rest Chicago at home because you can find another way to get a gritty result with Chicago at home. But I feel like you want your best 11 available in case DC. You get the sense that DC is not rotating at all for that game. I feel like DC is going to go hard. They're out. Like there's U.S. Open Cups, all DC's got, right? So they're going to go hard for that. And I think Charlotte also needs to feel like they need to go hard for it. They're I would imagine is one of the betting favorites of the whole competition. You have to go deep. You have to go deep in the U.S. Open Cup. They're probably if you were to actually see the tournament, they've got to be 1 or 2. And if you're 1 or 2 seed in the 16 teams left, you've got to feel like you got to get to the semifinal, the final, and get to a home match and bring that crowd home. You've never been past the round of 16 U.S. Open Cup. You got to get past that game. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's where even like, yes, is the MLS season, is there hitting a bump in the road? Sure. It's recoverable because of the points, again, they got early. You can even, obviously you can't feel like you can drop points against Chicago at home, but like, you can recover those. You can't recover getting knocked out of round of 16 if they end up going and not getting anywhere near a trophy the rest of the year. You can't recover that. And so for me, that out of the rest of this whole month, beating DC United in DC is the most pivotal game.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree
That's a
with you.
good, that's a fair,
That
that's a
makes a
fair
lot of
shout,
sense.
right? So what you're saying, just to recap, is play your best 11 tomorrow,
Yeah.
make rotation Saturday, and then play your best 11 against DC.
And not many, right? Even Dean said he's not that concerned about a 3-game roto, right? It's the Wednesday to Saturday that's tough because you only got 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday to Saturday is tough. Saturday to Wednesday, not quite as tough. You have an extra day. You got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you have 3
That's a
days
good point,
versus
yeah.
2, right? So there's a little bit of a difference there logistically in terms of plan, travel, all that. So you have a little bit because you have that 2-day break before you travel to DC on Tuesday for the Wednesday game. So you have that to factor in as well versus the Wednesday, Saturday shift, a little bit tougher. Now, a lot of these guys can do that shift. I'm not saying rotate a lot. I'm saying if you were to give the point keeps coming up that Westwood is the guy who needs the break. If you're going to give 1 or 2 guys, mostly Marshall Ruddy can go 120 minutes forever, right? Scardina, you would expect the same way. These guys are young, right? Ajiman, Toklamati, a lot of the younger guys you expect to be able to just run all day. Liel Abada as well, right? So there's guys that shouldn't have to deal with a minute of any kind of change at all. It's just like if you're going to see okay, Bronico and Westwood are running a lot. They're now both 30 plus. Well, Broncos, I think almost 30. Those are the guys maybe you rotate. Maybe some of the veteran guys who are also having to do a decent amount of running, rotate them a little bit. Zaha, I don't think Dean's rotating against anybody right now. And so, but there's a couple guys. I think Westwood would be at top of the list. If you wanted to give him 1 game, it's the Chicago at home. It's probably, I obviously Westwood's not going to love that either. If that was the play, but that would be my preference there. Because you also want to keep these guys on the field and keep them in sync together at the same time because they're not playing super in sync. So the way to get them to play in sync is by getting them to play out of it. That's what Dean Smith did last year when they couldn't win for 5, 6 straight games. He let them keep playing and they played out of it and they found a way out. And so you also got to do that a little bit too.
It's a good point too.
Your point is really strong because that 5-6 games where we sucked came after the tournament where we were rotating like crazy and everybody at home was like, Charlotte needs to lose so we'll get a 3-week break and then we'll come back amazing. And it's like that's never the case in football. You need to play as much as you can with your starting 11 or you're
that
gonna
is
lose
right.
it.
Yeah.
So, if we do go crazy switching things up, and I could see it happen again. That's another reason why we need to stay in this tournament is because we get those midweeks where we do 1 or 2 rotations. We can learn for free. We're not experimenting stuff in the league. Do I want to go and win a trophy in a tournament? Yes. Sometimes I think that is almost important than winning the MLS playoffs where more than half of the teams make the playoffs and anybody can win it because it's a weird structure, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Trophy.
And I think all the players know. Patrick
Yeah.
Ajiman mentioned it right after the game against NCFC, where hey, this is a tournament that we can win. So I think they're all aware of that. I think I don't know how much these guys think about this, but if I was them, you have a chance to make history for a club that's never won anything, right? Obviously it's a new club, but you could go down as being part of a roster that put a trophy on to a team that never existed before, right? And I think this year, out of all the years, right, they've got a really good opportunity within that Open Cup, right? So that's something that I think. I don't know how much they think about that, but if I was them, I would be thinking a lot about that. And so, yeah, you're right. The more you mention that, that's probably the smarter play, right? Start your best 11 tomorrow, make some rotations at home, and go for it against DC, right? Because DC's also there for the taking. They're not that good.
No.
And so awesome. Let's do some score predictions before we end the show. I'll start off with you, Aaron. What are you feeling tomorrow?
I think we'll win 1-0.
Dang, okay.
I want to see something a little bit different. I want to see something a little bit experimental that goes against what I'm saying, philosophy wise, but I think we can go 1-0. I want the team to have a chip on their shoulder from last year. I want them to be pissed off and to go out there and win the game. They know they can do it. We were close 2 times at the end of the year last year, and I think we rebound. So
Who scores the goal?
Zaha.
Hey, 3 points from Zaha, I think would really, really like that. Would really, I would really punch. You know,
I'm hoping that he just like has that Nashville tweet, as his lock screen. And he can
penalty
see,
or no penalty.
he can see no penalty. I just want him to be able to see that, that mocking tweet that Nashville had of his Snapchat. And hopefully he sees that when he's on the pitch and, bangs one top ends.
Brian?
I think it's a 2-1 loss. I think Orlando comes away with both or 2 goals and 3 points. I think Zaha does get a goal though. I think he's desperate for one. I would love, and I think that's the one thing. Like, the takeaway is that was one concern I've had with him. Like Aaron, you mentioned it earlier, just his willingness to kind of like go off script and kind of take players on. He's willing. The people talk about his dribbling and in like sort of like the middle third and creating turnovers and stuff like that. But I think in the final third, he actually has been a little bit more hesitant. And I really want to see him, especially anytime there's a 1v1 against anyone, anywhere near the box. If he's 1v1, go right at him. Anytime there's any space, you take that space and go for it. And so if you see that, even with a 2-1 loss, you're like, okay, this is the Zaha we've kind of like been sold on and expected. I think even with the loss, you take away some momentum, like, okay, this is like, there's a turn to this. I think that's what happens.
Yeah. I unfortunately also see a loss tomorrow. Right. And so I was going to say 2-1 as well. My added caveat would be Liel Labada kind of does an Mbappe where he scores, but it doesn't really matter because we lose. It's happened in Columbus and it's happened in Nashville, right? I mean, Mbappe scored a hat trick against Barca and they still lost 4-3. So it'll be another kind of one of those similar situations. And again, it goes back to that. I think they're, like you mentioned, unbeaten in the last 10, right? I think it's a team that, we already struggle going away. So all the factors are against us, unfortunately, right? And so it'll be tough. I'll be super happy if we pull a point away, right? But, like you mentioned earlier, right, the cushion that we got at the beginning of the season where we were quote unquote first, right, is kind of helping us now where we're kind of going through a rough patch. Nice. With that said, Aaron, where can everybody find you at?
On Twitter, Instagram _AP Bright.
AP Bright. And Mr. Brian?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Bam Maurer Media. You can find all my written content at topbin90.com. And also, if you're looking for somebody to hang out with on Wednesday, me and Blake, our show Dropping Points, we're doing a watch along during around 8:30 on to kind of rag on each other as we see our points drop during MLS Fantasy. Although, hey, I was week ranked 15th this year, a couple weeks ago. So I qualified for Champions League. So we're on the come up.
Hey, dude.
Nice.
Nice. With that said, Jorge Gonzalez, all our socials are top bin 90. Hopefully next time we do another podcast, we'll be celebrating some Charlotte FC wins, right? And with that said, everybody have a great night.